Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing. Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike here, kicking off a 50-cent pick four at Belmont at the Big A on Sunday. There are 3 graded stakes races on the card, including this race. We're going 6 furlongs on the outer turf. It is the grade 3 Futurity. 2-year-olds, $150 is the purse. Let's take a look at this field. And I thought this was a pretty wide open race, Mike. The 2 Najarok is your 5-2 morning line favorite based on a gate-to-wire win over course and distance last time out. But this is a horse that's going to have to prove it now against tougher competition.
Yeah, he is. He's going to have to do it in a race that's probably going to be run at a much faster pace, too. So we'll see how that all works out. I don't know, Dan. I thought this was a really interesting race. I thought there were cases to be made for several of these horses.
Interesting thought about the pace. Najarok went gate to wire last time out. I thought the pace was fair. I agree with you. I agree with Timeform US, as we thought the pace projector, that the pace should be faster. The 7 Gaslight Dancer just went gate to wire in a maiden special way to Kentucky Downs. Determined Jester stretching out off a 5.5 furlong race where she pushed a very fast pace. This pace should at least be contested.
I think so, too. More than anything else, though, Dan, I thought, I hadn't looked at the pace projector until I was already done with the analysis. I thought for sure the 5 Power Attack was going to be on the lead in this race. I know he's cutting back. This is a pretty fast horse.
And he was on a pretty fast pace last time out at Monmouth, so he just adds to the pace picture as well. Even Bourbon Therapy was on the lead 2 starts back. A horse that would relish a fast pace is just hanging back in last on your pace projector. That's Dunedin, who scored last time out in his 3rd lifetime start. It was an allowance race at Kentucky Downs going 6.5 furlongs, and he finished it off as a maiden at 22-1. He'll be rolling late.
Yeah, I agree with. I mean, this race could set up the right way for this horse. I like all 3 of his starts. To me, he's just gotten better every time they've sent him out to the track. He faced winners last time. And I don't know, Dan, we'll see if he can back that race up, but he traveled strongly throughout that race. He always looked like he was going to fire, and he did fire through the stretch. I really liked his win last time.
Najarok ran well in his career debut at Horseshoe Indianapolis, privately purchased, over to Graham Motion. Nice win in start number 2. Let's watch that race at Belmont at the Big A. Went right to the lead in here and just looked good finishing it off. Very respectable Beyer speed figure of 78. I don't think he's a speed crazy horse, and I wouldn't be surprised if Manny Franco's like, something, let's let some of these other speeds go. I'm confident in this horse in the second flight or so.
Yeah, they'll probably, I don't think he'll be able to make the lead in here. I think there are some faster horses in this race, and more than anything else in here, not only did he just really benefit from the debut experience, but the pace just wasn't fast, and he had no trouble making the lead, and nobody really pressed him up there. And you can see there on the replay, he had a lot of horse left through the stretch. I still think he ran well. In some ways, he's the horse to beat in here, but he's far from a standout.
Another horse that should come from off the pace is the 3 Inflation Nation. It's Jose Ortiz. It's Christophe Clement, 3-1 on the morning line. This horse, I thought, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in his career debut, Mike. I think that was a big-priced Chad Brown horse that came back on the inside and nipped him. It looked like Inflation Nation had that race in the bag, but he did come back to score second time out at the Spa. We're going to watch that race on September the 1st, and he, again, is going to make a run on the turn on the outside. He's going to grind by.
Yeah, his Beyer regresses here. It is a turf course with a little bit of give in it. He just had a perfect trip in this race and gets the job done. You can see him make the lead and then not get away from this field, but he's always holding on to the end. I'm with you, Dan. I thought he hung pretty badly in his career debut. He can win here. I'd be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I thought 3-1 was a pretty stingy price on the line. I wouldn't take him at that number.
I tend to agree. The 4 is Vacation Dance. This is a New York bred who's going to be stepping up not only out of the maiden ranks, but against open company. Here's his debut victory for trainer John Kimmel, and I thought he took advantage of a pretty hot pace in this race. They went the first quarter 21-2. Vacation Dance comes from off of it. He wins. The 5th place horse would return to place on dirt against State Breds with a 63 Beyer.
Yeah, I thought he ran pretty well in here. It was a quick opening quarter. This is a horse who didn't break that sharply from the gate, but after that, he just kept improving his position throughout the running. He was on the outside through the turn, but he kept coming forward. And then when he took over, he still held off the closers. I know it was against New York breds. I know it didn't come back that fast. I thought he ran a little bit better than it looks on paper first time out.
Power Tack is up next, and again, he is a horse that could show speed. He was the pace setter of the Now Stakes. His first time around 2 turns. That was at Monmouth last time out. They went pretty fast in that race, and he tired. He has some distance questions to answer, and if the pace is fast, there's a chance he could get cooked.
It's true. I do think cutting back, though, after going a mile last time could really help him with the 6 furlong distance here. And I just think he's a pretty talented horse. And I think he's run well in all 4 of his starts so far, even though he's only 1 for 4. He crushed those maidens. It was New York bred maiden race at Belmont, but he buried that field when he broke his maiden. And he ran pretty well in the Tyrrell. I think they tried to make the lead with him in there, but that Sharp as Attack, who's a pretty good horse, was just faster, and all this horse could do was chase. I think he's underrated, and he's a great price on the line.
I like what Ken Sweezy's doing. Listen, they tried the 2 turns last time out. It didn't work out. They're not going to go on with it. They know he's talented and fast, and they're cutting him back in distance, and that should help. He gets an aggressive rider with Kendrick Carmouche aboard. The 6 is Bourbon Therapy. Eric Consell gets the mount. This horse won at Horseshoe, Indianapolis 2 starts back. Was in a Kentucky Downs last time out. I thought the trip all in all worked out for him, but that course can be demanding. He probably benefits from that race.
That's true. I probably shouldn't be as hard on him as I want to be just because that race was at Kentucky Downs last time. I just didn't think that he ran well in there. Listen, I thought a lot of different horses could win here. He was one of the horses I didn't like.
Gaslight Dancer, the number 7, showed speed in his career debut on dirt, showed speed on turf, and held a lot better with the surface switch at Kentucky Downs. Let's watch Gaslight Dancer's maiden win for trainer Michael Maker. And he just got right to the front in this field, and you rarely see this at Kentucky Downs. He just went right to the front and improved his position. He speed popped this group.
Yeah, he was confidently ridden throughout this race, and once his rider set him down a little bit there, he just leaves this field in the dust. This is a pretty impressive stretch run. And he did all that after he didn't, break right on top in this race, Dan, but he just sort of ranged up on those horses up the backside to take over and just absolutely rolled in here. I thought this was a really impressive turf debut.
Very pleasing win, and as you mentioned, very confidently ridden. He wasn't the fastest out of the gate, but they just let him brush on the backstretch to get to the front, and then he crushed. Filly taking on the boys is the 8 Determined Jester, but don't let that dissuade you. She's already beaten males. She did it last time at Colonial Downs in the Rosie Stakes. It was a race where there was a big speed in there that went out to the early lead. Determined Jester sat in second, was on a hard chase, didn't look like a 35-1 shot in the stretch, and hailed that horse and kept on rolling. Really visually impressive performance.
Yeah, it was a huge step forward for this horse who didn't, do that much running in her first 2 starts, but she really improved last time to beat the boys. And she did it at a huge price, Dan. Now they have her 6-1 on the line against this field, and I think it's a way tougher field than the one she just beat. It'll be interesting to see if they run here because they also have her entered in the matron on Saturday.
Trainer Phil Schoenthal told our colleague Dave Granning in New York, wrote the advances for both of the 2-year-old turf races this weekend. Schoenthal said Determined Jester displaced 2 starts back, might have been in heat, so there might have been a couple of excuses there. This outside post, I think it'd be okay for if the speeds decide to go inside. Forrest Boyce named to ride. Let's take a look at our top picks for a fun race, the Grade 3 Futurity. Mike, you're going with Gaslight Dancer. I watched that stretch run again and again, and I can't disagree with you.
Yeah, I just thought he was really impressive, Dan. It's unfortunate in some ways that Irad's taken the mount here because it just means he's going to take even more money. And I don't think I would want too short a price because there are just too many other interesting horses in here. I like the 7, the 1 and the 5 are the other 2 for me.
I like the filly if she runs in this spot. I like the way she was on a hard chase and kept right on going. Curious to see how she steps up in class. I think the price will be fair, though, as she faces the boys in graded competition. 7154 for Mike, 8271 for me. Grade 3 Futurity. Race 6, Belmont at the Big A on Sunday. Good luck.